Hello, everybody, and welcome to Old Women Who Write. I'm Jean Palin. I'm your host. I have a wonderful guest today who I will tell you about. Jill Nelson is a journalist, writer of fiction, a writer of nonfiction, and her books range from serious biography about events in her life to editing a book about police brutality, to writing a book about the African-American community on Martha's Vineyard, to two sex novels. That's what I call them. Sorry, Jill. Two sex novels. That's a wide range. So first of all, welcome, Jill.
Thank you. It's so great to be here.
Yeah, I'm really glad to have you here. Now, in full disclosure for those watching, Jill and I have met before in our bathing suits on Anna Maria Island in Florida, where we sat in the sand and met and got to know each other. I've been friends with Jill's daughter for years now, years from back when she only had one child. So we'd known each other quite a while. And so it was really through her daughter, Misu, or Sunshine, that I met Jill. So I'm so happy to have you here. You were on my first list of people I wanted to interview before I even got this website up, just so you know.
It's a pleasure. Thank you. Well, it's good to see you and to be here.
Yeah, Jill's a true New Yorker. She went to City College of New York and then on to study at the Columbia School of Journalism. She wrote for the Washington Post magazine, for you DCers, at its inception, and she won a Journalist of the Year award there for her contribution. Her work has appeared in every publication you've ever heard of, from the New York Times to the Village Voice. We will talk about much more about her books than about her journalism. But what I want to know first is, how do you consider yourself? Do you see yourself as a journalist or as a book writer? And does it matter?
At this point in my life and career, I don't think it matters. I kind of just call myself a writer / artist / activist.
Uh-huh.
And that pretty much encompasses, I think, all the things I do. But if something else becomes dominant, I'll add that in too.
Right. Is there one form that you prefer to the others, or no?
Not really. I'm trained as a journalist, so I think that is more inherent in when I sit down to write. That's where I sort of automatically go because I've been doing that for so long.
Yes.
But I actually love the challenge of writing memoir and writing fiction because the voices are so different.
Very different.
The thing about journalism is you stop where the facts stop, and you stop where the truth, as you know it and have been able to dig it up, stops.
Yes.
The great thing about fiction is that you can just make something up. You can take it wherever you want.
Right.
That's the fun of writing sexual healing, and let's get it on this so-called sex novels. And I'm going to now call myself a sex novelist. That I could make it up.
Yeah.
I could just take it wherever I wanted to take it. Let my imagination really run wild.
Yes. I think it occurs to me it may have taken more bravery to write the autobiographical books that you wrote, like the one book which I hadn't named, Volunteer Slavery, My Authentic Negro Experience, which was about your experience as a journalist at the Washington Post. When I read that book, I thought, oh, what a brave woman you are. You were brave for being there,
Right.
but also brave for writing about it.
You know, I've heard people have said that before, but I felt I had to do it. It was almost as if I had to sort of expel all these experiences and the energy, negative, much of it, positive, some of it, the ways that it messed with every part of me, my race, my gender, my age, my being a New Yorker. I mean, so much was involved in my time there. So I was kind of compelled to do it and didn't feel that brave until it was about to be published and people told me, oh, you'll never eat lunch in this town again.
You'll never work again, right?
Never worked. And actually, it turned out, in fact, to be kind of a career enhancer.
Really?
Yes, yes. I mean, I think some people responded to that voice. And so I worked as a freelance journalist for many years after I left the Post and did well and supported myself and my daughter.
Mhm.
Um, I think because maybe no one wanted me in the office 24/7, but I had a voice that they were interested in hearing.
Mhm.
And that was fine with me because I don't want a job.
Well, I'll tell you, I was recently writing, I'm trying to write a memoir. And when I was writing something about being in the women's movement back in the 70s, and I said we had a fledgling little group in Mobile, Alabama, women's group, and that I was chosen to be the speaker. And I said, I think it was because I was relentless in argument. And I think that's you too. I that I think you may be.
Yeah, I think that's very possible, as
Yeah.
I've always felt that and I think I was raised this way by my mother and father, that, you have an obligation to a community larger than yourself, and that the most important thing you have is your integrity.
Mhm.
And that you see it every morning when you wake up and look in the mirror. And if you can't return the gaze, there's a problem. And
Yes.
standing up for what I believe to be right and my integrity really was not a big leap for me because it was what I was brought up to do. Push back, do what's right, take risks, and that you will be rewarded in so doing.
Yes. And I know there were times, like I read in Straight No Chaser, there were several times when you were being an activist, or at least a couple of times where you in fact felt or were threatened, that your life was threatened.
Yes. Well, I think that, as you know, coming from the women's movement, look, Governor Cuomo just resigned for sexually harassing 11 women. It's endless. And the
Yes.
disrespect, the silencing, the disappearing. And as I have lived, I'm 69, the older I've gotten, the more I've realized I can recognize the stages of it, of our disappearance or of our appearance,
Mhm.
which to me roughly breaks down to I can exploit you and use you sexually.
Mhm.
I don't want to exploit or use you sexually.
Right.
But either way, if you don't go along with the program, you're disappeared.
Right.
And that's we if we don't fight for our own visibility, then no one will.
You said in Straight No Chaser, I'm going to quote from there. I would tell you what page it was on, but I don't know. I read it on Kindle, so what do I know? Straight No Chaser, you said, there's no way to separate the personal from the political, since one feeds off and informs the other. They are in a symbiotic relationship. Violence is with me every morning when I pick up the newspaper and read about the latest attack by the local or federal government on entitlement programs benefiting women and children, or when I read about efforts to curtail a woman's right to abortion or force women receiving welfare benefits to put their children in daycare and work for the city in some latter-day incarnation of slavery. It is with me when I turn on the television and watch the news, filled with images of demonized Black women, images created to justify the latest cuts and abdication of government responsibility. Read reports of yet another woman raped, beaten, or killed, another woman working and living in poverty. That was written in 2003, I think, or five. I can't remember which.
97.
Oh, was it? Oh, you're right. You're right, right. And is it any different today, this minute? In your mind? Has anything changed?
Not enough, not much. I think we have these sort of, now it's like the treatment of women and the abuse, the exploitation of women, the violence toward women is a volcano.
Yes.
Every now and then spits out something, but is always tamped down so it never fully erupts. And so
How
I
do you
think,
mean? How do you mean? I'm not sure I get what you're saying.
I think we have a situation where we have a Harvey Weinstein, and there's attention focused on him because there has to be, because so many women and people have come forward who are powerful, and men as well, supporters, to talk about his abuse of women. And then he's convicted and he goes to prison, and the volcano settles down again. And then we
Uh-huh.
go along with the same old until the next eruption. Let's say it's Mario Cuomo or
Yeah.
or Bill Cosby or OJ, whoever it is.
Yeah.
I think it's so American that we never deal. It's like racism,
Yeah.
the original that
Very much.
we never really are going to excavate. It's always like, how can we tamp the volcano down so it doesn't erupt?
Yes.
To tease my friends, I say, since the murder of George Floyd, the New York Times is like ebony or jet. There's so many articles about people of color and African Americans in particular. After Weinstein, it was the same in terms of women.
Mm-hmm.
But these people were always there, and
Right.
these stories were always in existence, and these activism was always out there. But what we get is the blip. We need to erupt and recreate, and it's difficult to get there.
Right. I recently, or not, about 3 years ago, I was in a writers group. It was a course, a writing group in Sarasota, Florida. And it was about half male, half female. And the men were all in their 50s or 60s. And they were retired school principals and insurance salesmen and attorneys, lots of attorneys writing nowadays. And it was very good. And there were two interesting things that happened. One was I wrote a story about sexual abuse, my sexual abuse as a child. And the story was written as fiction, and it led up to the abuse. Every woman in the room, you read it out loud, okay? Mm-hmm. Every woman in the room, as they said later, knew by paragraph 2 what was going to happen. Okay, that the abuse was going to happen by the janitor in the school. The men had no clue and didn't get it till the actual abuse happened, that it was predictable. Didn't get it. And that was shocking. And the other shocking thing was when someone else wrote something about sexual harassment of adults. One of the men said, well, you can't do anything anymore. You can't even tell somebody they look nice. You can't even say that's a nice dress. And I thought, oh my God, are they living under rocks? What's wrong with them? That's not true. That's never been true. It's not true now. It's somebody pointed out about Cuomo, it's called the dinosaur defense.
Right. That was a plea he's been copying.
Yep. Yes, he has.
I just didn't get it. Now, meanwhile, you have 3 daughters who I think are all in their early or mid-20s.
Yeah.
But kind of were that oblivious. I mean,
right.
Them, if that's true. To be shocked and aghast at prevailing reality is a wonderful defense.
Mm-hmm.
And a wonderful protective mechanism, and an easy way to perpetuate the same negativity and the same crimes. Oh, yeah. I didn't know.
Right.
Well, you didn't know because you didn't want to know.
Right. I know. I loved it. He said something about this isn't exactly right, but the definition, he didn't realize the definition had expanded.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the definition of, don't touch me and don't reach under my dress and cup my breast.
Right.
I think that hasn't expanded.
I think not.
It's always us. And
that's right. That's right.
All
right. When you wrote about working at the Washington Post, that was loaded with dinosaurs, the Washington Post. Yeah. How did you stand it? What you're writing about it just made my heart stop many times, because now tell me what year this was that you were working at the Washington Post.
86 to 90, 90, early 91.
Okay, okay. So I'd like to say, well, it was back in the day where they didn't know any better. What hit me was how isolated you were in that experience as both an African-American person and a female person together. The isolation sounded like the worst of it to me. What that does to your ego.
I think it was. I mean, I think I say in the book that I always knew how much Stoli was left in the bottle when I was on my way home. I mean, that about sums it up, you know, when you go, I've got 4 fingers left. Do I need to go to the
Yeah, I hear you. Funny.
It
Yeah.
wasn't. And
Yeah.
you know, but I had some allies, not necessarily connected to the institution that I worked for, but I did family friends and people who were really supportive. My father was from DC, and so there were people who he knew who were around me. There was a great bunch of labor peoples from AFSCME, Bill Lucy and Bill Lynch, who were very supportive of me. But it was isolating, and I had gone there saying I would see my daughter through high school. And
Yeah.
I did. I took her down to Hampton and came back and quit.
Yeah. Wow. Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I'm from the wonderful state of North Carolina now, where the author of 1619 was denied tenure at the University of North Carolina, a moment to be horrified at. I was happy to see that she took all of her gifts, mental, physical, character-wise, and money-wise, to DC, to Howard. Yeah, got out of the state.
I actually, in the end, think that I believe that, and I hope that it will all have been a good thing because it's brought incredible money to Howard.
Yes.
Which has had a complete brain drain since integration. I think that they're in a position, she's in a position, Nikole Hannah-Jones, and with Ta-Nehisi Coates there as well, to bring other people who are at other institutions who maybe in the past there wasn't enough money or blah, blah, blah. First of all, they can raise money for these people. So let's say Cornel West or, you know, other scholars, Sadia Columbia and others can come to Howard for a year if so invited or whatever and share their incredible power and intelligence with primarily African-American student body.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good thing that came out of this. And
yes.
Hooray for creating something good out of something bad. But then this is the Black people's, this is our thing, right? I mean, it's like chitlins. Nobody wants to eat that offal, but we figure out a way to make it
tolerable. Way to get a benefit, right?
Yeah. So
yeah,
I just thought North Carolina played themselves.
Yes, I agree.
But what was interesting to me about it, among the many things, was that they thought that it would work, knowing that the other people who had had that position had come in tenured, knowing that this was the first and only Black woman to come into that chair. They obviously, nothing made them think, well, maybe we should treat her the same as we treated everybody else. The white guys. Oh no, we never do that.
Right. That's right. No, oh no, the big money guy says we shouldn't do that.
Right.
That too.
There's always the donor.
Yeah.
But I think it also takes a stand against this whole attitude of donors and philanthropic givers, that they somehow know best.
Yes.
That they can bring their independent money in and call the shots better than the law, better than the government, better than the people they're affecting. And I thought this was a great pushback of, okay, keep the money, we can get money somewhere else and go somewhere else where we are truly valued.
Yes.
And
Yes.
those students are so excited. I feel like going and enrolling in Howard.
Yeah, I gotcha. I gotcha. I was enrolled last year in the Great Smokies Writers Program, which is University of North Carolina. That's my only connection. Yeah.
Good.
All right. We're going to shift gears. I couldn't think of the phrase. Shift gears. You wrote 2 novels. One of them is called, I can't believe I didn't write, of course I wrote the names.
Sexual healing.
Thank you. Yes, Sexual Healing and Let's Get It On. I'm going to let you tell the listeners what the premise is of those 2 novels.
Well, the premise of Sexual Healing is 2 women in their 40s, best friends, that decide that they're going to open a brothel for women in which all the sex workers are men.
Yep.
And it's to sort of give women a chance to enjoy sex for sex sake. It's not a relationship. It's not yearning. It's not, well, is this the one? It's just do me the way I want, and it better be good because I'm paying. And then Let's Get It On is a sequel.
Uh-huh.
Healing. And both of the books involve these women's struggle to kind of get to who they really are and the way they feel about their sexuality, but also the pushback from their upbringing. One of them's father was a minister, so she's got to deal with all that kind of good girls don't Christian BS. The politicians come after them because they think, oh, we can kind of hook our star to these promiscuous women and ride up on get rich and ride on a tide of self-righteousness.
Yeah.
So it involves kind of all the things I'm interested in.
Yeah.
As I said earlier, fiction, you get to make it up. So it would get to the point where I'd be like, well, what would this person do then? And I'd be like, but that is not a real person. That might be based on real people, but I can make them do whatever I want because I'm the
Right.
fiction writer.
Well, I
And
tell you, I am almost through Sexual Healing and have not yet read the follow-up. But they're funny. I mean, the novels are funny. I laughed many times through there. They're quite explicit, which, you know, I'm 80 years old and I'm still not accustomed to that. I'm not accustomed to women speaking publicly about sex, the experience of sex, the feelings of sex, what we have built up around sex.
Right.
Even I went like, oh, a number of times. What?
But did you keep on reading?
Yes. Yes, I did. Yeah,
No,
I love. Go ahead.
You're right. I mean, I think it's another way we're made invisible. You know, our sexuality, which is what the clitoris is the most sensitive organ, anyone, male or female, in any human body.
Yeah.
We should all know that and be celebrating it and figuring out how we can make it even more responsive.
Right.
But we're not encouraged to do that. And in an odd way, Jean, going back to your earlier question about the pushback on volunteer slavery, I felt like Sexual Healing, it was quieter, but in some ways there was more pushback.
Really?
Yeah, because I think that a lot of us we have put open enjoyment of sexuality in a certain category, and kind of girls don't. You know, bougie, upper middle class Black women, white women don't.
Yep.
Into that. And everybody's, you know, worked in a job they hate. I mean, I think that was some of the resonance of volunteer slavery. And if you're a woman and a woman of color, person of color, it resonates that much more.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a lot of us are in denial about our sexuality, not just in public. And I'm glad you enjoyed the book, reading it, because I wanted it to be a stroke book. I've read lots of porn, and I just felt like, you know, forget the midget dwarves and the giant penises, you know, ravishing the woman. What about these women ravishing the men?
Right.
Like, 23-year-old men with some 67-year-old women.
Right, right,
I
right.
remember, so that was kind of wonderful.
So when are you going to get this place open?
That is the most common question I've been asked about, because it's called the Sisters Spa.
Uh-huh.
Reno. And then Let's Get It On is the sequel to that, where one of the women, Lashawanda, one of the women, decides that she wants to franchise. She's from the East Coast, so she wants to go back to the East Coast and she wants to franchise the brothel to a yacht off Martha's Vineyard.
Oh my God. Oh my Lord.
Chaos ensues.
Right. I'm sure it does. All
Let's-
kinds, legal chaos, social chaos,
Legal,
class chaos.
lots of clash chaos, lots of, oh, nice people don't do this, and political chaos, in terms of some questionable sex workers whose motives are
Yeah,
unclear. But they're more than just pleasuring women, which is all you're supposed to be into if you want to work.
right. Let me tell you, when you said you read lots of porn, I used to read a lot. Well, no, let me back it up. One time I was in the hospital, very sick, and this is years ago. And I told all of my friends, bring me books. What I want are books with good sex and happy endings. That's it. That's the qualification for the books. So all my friends would come in with books, and give me all these books. They piled up. Then the person who at the time was my therapist, because I felt guilty about my divorce, my therapist came in and she had a bag full this big. And I said, oh my God, you really love this stuff. And she started talking to me about the individual books, how wonderful the character development was in this one, and how wonderful this was. And do you know, I could never go back to her for another therapy session. I couldn't go back to anybody with tastes that bad. Oh, funny.
I know the feeling. And that's what I thought. I thought there's got to be a way I can write a book that's
Literate.
sexually explicit and funny.
Yeah.
And political and all that stuff. But I do think your questions just made me think about this. I think the pushback was more on that. I think it was almost like, how could you? And somebody worked in a newsroom told me that the men in the newsroom used to call chapter 30 the dirty 30. They're all, what about the dirty 28, the 14, 31?
Right, right. I love this. I love this. Now, when I read, it was 6 months ago that I read Volunteer Slavery, or more like 7 or 8 months ago. And am I remembering correctly, forgive me if I'm wrong, that you had a very explicit sex scene in there?
Yes.
Early on in the book, having to do with a mortuary and a mortician's table.
Yes, I believe that was chapter 1 or 2.
Yes, I remember being so shocked that I was reading this serious book. And holy moly, she's having sex on a mortician's table.
Well, we are so diverse and so chock full of so many things. And we have a right to be that way. Yeah. And wherever we're coming from, whoever we are. And I think an obligation. I think readers really appreciate when they feel you've been real and been straightforward and been honest.
Yes.
One of the greatest comments someone made to me, they said, I loved your book. She said, I read it overnight and I felt like I'd been in a 15-hour conversation with you.
Oh, yes.
Wonderful thing to say.
Yes.
And so I think we're not here for the brief time we're here to fit into the envelope.
Mm.
We're there to push it and then break out and then create some other enclosures or that are freeing, or create no enclosure at all, or figure out how to live in space.
Right.
Whatever it is, it's not to go along with the program. What a waste.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. What I've discovered in writing this memoir is that the pattern for me in my life has been break out and then go, oh, hell.
Mm-hmm.
So I break out and then tamp it down because it's not acceptable, and then break out and then spend another 3, 4 years trying to go with the program. You know, it's been like this
Yeah.
through my whole life. When the whole, now I know, given my druthers, I would have been out there, you know, I would have, should have, would have, wish I had been out there as I see you being my whole life, you know, not in spurts.
Well, but what you just described about your life is what I was saying about the volcano.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
it's
You're
really
right.
hard. And I mean, I remember there's that line, I think in Volunteer Slavery, where we're talking about insecurity. So my mother says, "We're not insecure, we're Nelsons." And that's how I was raised. And
Yeah, that's a great line.
yeah, I was thinking about when I was on Martha's Vineyard recently, the house that my parents bought in 1967, and which is big, and it's on the edge of a park, and everybody knows where it is, and it's
Yeah.
become iconic. And I thought about my father, who, when we were kids and we would go up there and rent different houses, he would always say, "That's a house I'm going to buy. That's the house I'm." We were all like, "Oh, Daddy," and then he did. But what I was thinking when I was there recently was that it made being there in that house physically made it literal. What one of the legacies my parents gave us is you don't have to prove anything to anybody. You're
Mm.
here, you sit in this prominent place, do unto others, and don't think you're a big deal because you're not.
Yes.
But you don't have to prove. You don't have to tamp down. You don't have to climb the social ladder. You just have to be and do good works. And I feel, I don't know, it's taken me all this long, but I realize the house is this embodiment of many things, but really an embodiment of that. And my father, who was from DC, who was dark skinned, who had to deal with that whole color complex and that racism and the color complex among Black people. I think he dapped his children by saying, "Here, take this. You don't have to justify yourself to anyone.
Hmm. Yeah.
Not be a snob, don't be exclusionary, but you don't have to justify yourself to anyone." And it kind of worked.
Yeah, it did. Listen, you led us right into what I wanted to talk about next, which was your book about Martha's Vineyard. For those who don't know who are watching, talk a little bit about the African American community on Martha's Vineyard.
Well, the African American community on the vineyard is fairly large. There were slaves on the vineyard, not a lot, but there was slavery on Martha's Vineyard. There were also a bunch of Black whaling captains who was New Bedford were whaling. So the Black captains sailed out of there. The summer community has been growing since the 40s,
Mm.
when there was a Black hotel open called Shearer Cottage, where people from all over the country would come, Black people who were prominent, and
Oh,
stay, because it was a place where you knew you could have nice lodgings and good meals and be around other Black people who were smart and interesting and creative. And that has grown and grown. It started out largely with people, regular families from Boston and then New York, and now there are people come from California, all over the country and the world to summer there. But it's a community of successful upper middle class, now some truly wealthy African Americans. President Obama has a home there that he bought in the last years.
wow.
But it's a place where you see yourself reflected all the time. I think our parents, my parents, and so many people were so often in a situation in their work lives and most of the year lives, where they had to prove themselves to white people that they should have been hired at the law firm, that they should be their dentist. My father was a dentist. That they should be able to teach their children whatever they did for work. That they found this place where they could just go and be themselves.
Yeah.
They were there, and that meant that they had a right to be there.
Yeah.
It's the same now. I left there, I was there for a month, and it was just so great to see all the families, and especially all the Black families, with kids running into the water and swimming. And, it wasn't like when I was a kid, when girls used to worry about their hair. Or
Yeah.
they didn't do it because they had to get it straightened, and they couldn't do it until they went back to the city. Just it's changed, and the people who come there have, I don't know that let me go back. The island has not changed as much as the people who come there have expanded.
Yes.
That's a wonderful thing, because you need somewhere where you can relax and feel safe. Now, is it racial nirvana? Absolutely not.
Hmm.
But it is a rare place in America.
Yes.
In my, never been any place like it.
Wow. Wow. I so want to see it. I do. I have to tell you, you better invite me up there sometime. So I just would, I would love to be there. It just sounds heavenly. I mean, I know I don't fit the characteristics, but the race characteristics, but it just, you make it sound like a place of retreat and peace.
It is, and for everybody. And let me be clear, the community there in the town of Oak Bluffs, where probably the majority of Black people live, but Black people live all over the island. The community there is no Black community. Everything's integrated.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Integrated. Like our neighbor, we're on the corner, and then our neighbors are Irish, and then a woman who owns a store, a white woman, and then a Black family. So we're all mixed up together.
I did not know that. I had an image of an entirely Black community.
Well, and it's funny because I've had people who came there who were like, wait, I thought this was all Black. And they were all,
Right.
I'm like, why would you think that?
Right.
But now, why they do, but no. And I think it's a live and let live place. Like my neighbor, Sharon Kelly, who's a good friend, a white woman, I got to the vineyard in 2008, and in May to open our house, and there she was with an Obama sign. I was like, she beat me to Obama.
It's funny.
My sign immediately. So I just think by and large, people of goodwill.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. And and the tensions are more like I think are often, again, the summer people as opposed to people who live there year round. And
yeah.
People living off people who are there a couple of months a year and are demanding.
Yeah.
Those type of. But in terms of going about my business as a woman of color, I have not had a problem.
Wow. Let me ask you something directly. You have not been writing novels or autobiographical books for a number of years. Is there a specific reason for it? Did you just get bored with it? Did you want to do something else? And if so, what's the something else?
In some ways I got tired of, and Let's Get On came out in 2009, and it was a grueling editing process, and not the editor. And I just got tired of fighting that fight with the publishing world. I just, and it's almost like every time you always have to sell yourself. And you get to the point where you don't want to sort of go in like, the Hottentot Venus and be like, here I am, look at my buttocks, check my flanks, breasts. So I think that got kind of boring. I didn't really want to do that. And then in 2012, right in November, right before the second Obama election, I had a transient ischemic attack, which is essentially
I know exactly what that is.
Mini stroke.
Yep.
And the way it manifested was I was at my computer early in the morning, and I was reading the paper, and I couldn't read the words. And so I went to tell my husband that something's wrong with my computer, and I couldn't make language.
Oh my God.
And so thought I was speaking, but him, he was turning like
Mm,
he said, well, I'm gonna call an ambulance. But of course I was like, get a cab, we'll get a cab. Somebody
You're a New Yorker. Get a cab.
what all the sirens and the attention. But anyway, I think that I spent the night, I was, they couldn't find a reason for it, blah, blah, blah. I have not had another one. But I think that loss of language had a really profound effect on me. And then as
Yes.
soon as I got out of the hospital and came home, I started doing collage.
Art, you mean collage.
Yes, cutting out things. And
Mhm.
I did a collage, I think when I was 28.
Mhm.
I was 40 years almost later making collage.
Wow.
Then and I also started to I've written a play.
Huh?
I think I don't love words the way I used to.
Mhm.
It's changed. And although it's funny, I have one collage that is a woman, it's a face holding an umbrella with being cascaded with words cascading over her. Does this mean I love words or hate them? I
Yeah.
don't know. But
Yeah.
so also, you get to knowing yourself. And I've done a bunch of op-eds that I send into the Times, wherever I send them. They never publish them. They used to publish them.
Mhm.
They don't anymore. And I'm like, when you be rejected, or not even rejected, it's just like disappeared again. That invisibility thing, And I think I think I've begun to see life in. I think the health scare made me a better person, in that it made me slower,
Yes.
more thoughtful.
Yes.
It's like the literal slowing down of language slowed everything down, and for the better. I mean, I think I've
Yes.
become a friend and a better parent and a better partner and a better everything.
Yes.
Also realizing I have nothing to prove anymore. Whatever thought I had to prove, I didn't really. And
Right.
if I haven't proven it by now, who gives a damn? I'm trying to enjoy my golden years through the Rona, through Trump, through all this shit. It's like,
Yeah.
we cannot let them steal our joy.
Yes.
And I feel that we've all in the world, on the planet, been kind of that tamping down. I think about it's been this kind of global psychic emotional tamping, and it's just unacceptable. It's just unacceptable that these people are going to steal. There's been so much stolen already, and then they're going to burn the planet up or
Yeah.
drown it.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out a balance between art and activism and words and joy. How do I get them all in a package? Because time is short.
And gets shorter every day. Yes, it does. Clearly, my whole goal is to live in the present at this moment.
Right on. You got. There's
Yeah,
no.
right. That's right. Do you have a collage to show us?
Sure. I have to get up and get it.
Well, get it. Quick, quick. Our time is almost gone.
Okay.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, wow, Jill.
It's called Ascension.
That is fabulous.
Thank you.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes, and I actually have another. Do you have time for another one?
Yeah. Well, you got to run quick. We got about 4 minutes. While Jill's gone, I will tell the people who are listening that I'm hearing on my computer some distortion of Jill's voice when she's been talking this whole time. And I'm hoping it's not going to show up on the recording, but it may. I will, of course, do subtitles so that if words are distorted, I may have to go through it because the automatic program won't be able to fix it. but I'll have subtitles.
Oh, wow. Ooh, there's you in the middle.
I did this one right after the TIA.
Wow. It's really wonderful.
So I love doing that, and I'm trying to go where the feeling leads me.
Yeah.
Opposed to I'm a writer and I've got to do this and I've got to. Plus, you know what? As a journalist, or journalist, it's kind of a relief not to have to constantly be consuming news.
Mhm.
In order to write op-eds or write politics, you have to constantly, and it's,
Yes.
I don't want to hear it.
It's
I just-
debilitating. It is debilitating.
It really is.
Yes, I couldn't agree more.
This is so
Well,
nice. I'm sorry.
huh?
This is so nice. What a great conversation.
Yeah, Ms. Nelson, it's been a joy. It's been a pleasure.
I could beam you over. I think we have to stay on the planet until we have the beam technology. So
Ah,
we can. Yeah.
is there anything you want to plug? Are you selling your collages? Most of the authors who come on have a book they want to sell. Anything you want to?
So I just finished putting all my books on Kindle.
Oh, good.
I did that myself. I got the rights back to all of them, and they're all on Kindle if you want.
Oh, good. So everybody out there, read them. They're really, really well done. Really, not just informative, but uplifting or make you angry, or they're disturbing, and some of them are funny, and some of them are very sexy, and all of them are worth reading. So
I try to always have humor because I think that's the way I get you to come along for the ride.
yeah,
And I'm not trying to like bang you over the head. I only do that at rallies.
right. Well, Jill, while you were out of the room, I told the audience that I've been getting a little distortion when you speak on my computer that I'm hoping isn't picked up in the recording. But in case it is, there will be subtitles, and I'll go through make sure they're fairly accurate, the subtitles.
If you do anything else or you need to talk again, I'd love it. We could just do a whole nother conversation at a
All right. And you just come on down to North Carolina and stay in a tiny house.
I might stay in close touch.
For sure. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm honored.